The silence had a texture that afternoon, like velvet pressed against my eardrums. 37 people in my mother's living room, and the only sound was ice melting in someone's glass of lemonade. My son had just spoken 7 words, and the world had stopped rotating. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Claire. I'm 32 years old. I've been raising my son alone since he was 18 months old, and I've gotten good at swallowing things. Words, mostly. Anger. The particular brand of humiliation that comes from being the family disappointment while pretending you don't notice. I'm a forensic accountant. I trace money for a living. I find what people hide. The irony of that won't be lost on you by the end of this. 3 months ago, I walked into my younger sister's baby shower carrying a hand-stitched quilt that took me 46 hours to make. I left carrying my dignity for the first time in 6 years. But what happened in that living room started weeks earlier, in a parking lot in a town called Denton, and in a child's backpack where truth lives in crayon. Let me back up. When my husband left, he didn't make a sound. I came home from my shift at the accounting firm where I was still a junior associate, 26 years old with a toddler on my hip, and found his wedding ring on the bathroom counter. No note, no explanation. Just the ring and empty drawers, and a silence so complete I thought I'd gone deaf. My son Julian was too young to understand. He wandered through the apartment for days looking for his father, opening closets, checking behind doors. I told him Daddy had to go away for work. I don't know why I lied. Maybe because the truth, that his father had decided fatherhood was optional, felt too cruel to say out loud to someone who still believed in Santa Claus. I had $400 in checking and half a certification I'd been working on at night, so I finished it. I sat at our kitchen table after Julian fell asleep, and I studied fraud examination and financial forensics until my eyes burned. I passed my CFE exam 8 months later. By the time Julian turned 4, I had my own small practice. Just me, a rented office that smelled like the coffee shop below it, and a growing client list of small businesses who needed someone to find where the money was actually going. I got good at it. Really good. I bought a small house when Julian was 6. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, a yard that needed work, a mortgage I paid on time every single month. Julian had his own room. He had new shoes when he needed them. He had a mother who showed up to every school event and knew the names of all his teachers. None of that mattered to my family. To my mother, Patricia, I was still the daughter whose husband left. To my sister, Brooke, I was proof that she'd made better choices. They never asked about my business, never acknowledged that I'd built something from nothing while raising a child alone. Every conversation, every holiday, every phone call circled back to the same equation. Brooke had a husband. Claire did not. The math was that simple. My mother called every Saturday morning. The calls followed a script. She'd start with Brooke, Brooke's new furniture, Brooke's husband Tyler and the vacation they'd just taken, Brooke's promotion to office manager at the medical practice where she worked. If I mentioned that Julian had won the school science fair, Mom would pause. I could hear her mentally shifting gears, and say, "That's wonderful, honey," in the same tone you'd use to acknowledge someone's parking spot preference. Then she'd pivot. "Your sister really has it figured out, Claire. Marriage isn't easy, but she makes it work." The subtext wasn't even subtext. It was just text. Brooke got married at 24. Brooke had a 4-bedroom house with granite countertops and a finished basement. Brooke's life looked like the Pinterest board version of adulthood. I was the rough draft she'd learned from. Mom said it explicitly one Thanksgiving while I was helping her wash dishes. Julian had accidentally knocked over a candlestick. He was 7. He was trying to help set the table. And Mom sighed while she picked up the pieces. "Your sister thinks before she acts, Claire. That's the difference." She said it like she was commenting on the weather. Like some people are tall and some people aren't, and I just happened to be the kind of person who didn't think. I learned to keep my face very still when she said things like that. Julian learned too. He'd press against my leg and go quiet, and I'd feel his hand slip into mine. He was 8 years old, and he already knew when a room had turned against us. I should have said something, should have drawn a line years earlier and told my mother that her grandson could hear every word, that she was teaching him women get measured by whether a man chooses to stay. But I didn't. I carried it, their disappointment, their comparisons, their version of who I was. Because carrying things quietly was what I'd become good at. It was my specialty. Tyler was the reason Brooke's life looked the way it did. He was 34, worked in medical equipment sales, drove a truck that looked like it had been detailed every weekend. He brought my mother flowers on her birthday. He never missed a family dinner. The whole family treated him like evidence that Brooke had won something the rest of us were still competing for. Nobody questioned the overnight trips. Tyler traveled constantly. Regional sales meetings, he called them, covering accounts across 3 counties. He'd leave Thursday afternoon, come back Sunday night. Sometimes he'd be gone Friday to Monday. Mom called it dedication. Brooke posted photos of the gifts he brought back. Flowers, wine, a bracelet. I called it a pattern, because I see patterns. It's what I do. I look at numbers until the story underneath them starts to show itself. Tyler's territory kept expanding. The trips got longer. He'd leave saying he had a conference in Denton and return smelling like laundry detergent that wasn't the brand Brooke used. Once, Julian mentioned that Uncle Tyler had promised to take him to a basketball game but never showed up. He forgot, Mom. It's okay. My son, 8 years old, already practicing forgiveness for men who disappear. I hated that more than anything my mother ever said to me. There was also the school concert where Tyler didn't come. He'd promised Julian he'd be there. Julian saved him a seat in the second row. The seat stayed empty for 40 minutes. When Tyler called the next day with an excuse about a client emergency, Julian said, "It's fine, Uncle Tyler," in a voice so small and practiced it made my chest hurt. But I didn't say anything, because questioning Tyler meant questioning Brooke's marriage, and questioning Brooke's marriage meant another Saturday morning phone call about choices. The favor happened 6 weeks before the baby shower. Tyler called me, not Brooke, not Mom, me. He needed help. Brooke had a doctor's appointment and Mom was going with her, and could I possibly pick Julian up from school? Tyler would take him for the afternoon, get him dinner, bring him home by 7. It would give me time to finish a client audit I was drowning in. I almost said no. Something in my gut twitched. The same twitch I get when a number doesn't reconcile on a balance sheet. But Julian's face lit up when I told him. "Uncle Tyler said we're getting burgers, Mom. Can I go?" I said yes. They were gone 5 hours. When Tyler's truck pulled into my driveway at 8, Julian climbed out happy, clutching a small paper bag. "Uncle Tyler got me a toy." I thanked Tyler, waved as he backed out. Then I looked in the bag. A small plastic dinosaur, bright green. The package said ages 3 to 5. Julian was 8. I turned the toy over in my hands. "Bud, this is for little kids." He shrugged. "Uncle Tyler grabbed 2 at the store. One for me and one for—" He stopped. "One for who?" His face went careful. The way kids' faces go when they realize they've said something they weren't supposed to. I'm not supposed to tell. I let it go. I shouldn't have, but I let it go. That night I was unloading Julian's backpack to wash it. He'd spilled juice inside, and a receipt fell out of the front pocket. Gas station, fuel, a kid's meal, animal crackers. The station was in Denton, 40 minutes east. Nowhere near Tyler's usual sales territory. Nowhere near anywhere Julian would need to be. I stood at my kitchen counter and stared at that receipt the way I stare at a ledger that won't balance. Julian didn't have a little brother. So whose dinosaur was that? Brooke announced her pregnancy at a family dinner 5 months ago. Mom cried. Tyler kissed her forehead while everyone clapped. She was glowing, radiant, already 6 weeks along. The shower was scheduled for early June. Mom called me in May to tell me when to arrive. Not to invite me. To tell me. "We're having it at the house, Saturday, June 8th. I'll need you there by 9 to help set up." I was holding my phone in one hand, watching Julian build a tower out of blocks on the living room floor. "So I'm on setup duty?" "Well, someone has to do it, Claire. Brooke can't lift things right now." There was no mention of Julian. When I asked if I should bring him, she paused. "I suppose. Just make sure he stays out of the way." Out of the way? My child, her grandson. I said, "Okay." I don't know why I kept saying okay to things that hurt. I started the quilt 4 weeks before the shower. Soft cotton squares in cream and pale blue. I'm not a quilter. I learned from YouTube videos and a library book. But I wanted to make something with my hands. Something that showed I cared. That I was happy for my sister, even if she'd spent years making sure I knew her happiness was superior to mine. I worked on it after Julian went to bed. Stitching by hand because I didn't own a sewing machine. My fingers ached. I pricked my thumb so many times I started keeping a Band-Aid next to my thread. Each stitch was a word I couldn't say. I want you to see me. I want you to know I tried. I want this baby to be warm. I knew the gift table would be covered in expensive strollers and designer diaper bags from Brooke's registry. I knew my quilt would look handmade in the worst way. Uneven, humble, the thing you politely thank someone for and then put in a closet. But I kept stitching, because the alternative was showing up empty-handed. And that would give my mother one more thing to compare me against. I finished the last square at midnight on a Wednesday. I held it up under the kitchen light. One corner puckered slightly. The stitching wasn't perfectly straight. Julian wandered in, half asleep, and squinted at it. "It's really blue, Mom. It's pale blue. It's really pale blue." I folded it into tissue paper and tucked it into a gift bag. I told myself a quilt could change how they saw me. It couldn't. But something else would. The financial documents arrived in my email on a Tuesday. Tyler sent them himself. Subject line: "Quick favor? Hey Claire, trying to refinance the house before the baby comes. Bank wants everything organized and you're the numbers person in the family. Could you take a look at these statements and make sure everything's clean? Really appreciate it." I should have said no. I should have told him to hire his own accountant. But Tyler had never asked me for anything, and some pathetic part of me, the part that still wanted to belong to this family, thought maybe this was him finally seeing me as useful, as more than just the sister-in-law who couldn't keep a husband. I opened the files at 10:30 at night. Julian was asleep. The house was quiet except for the hum of my laptop and the sound of rain starting against the windows. 3 months of bank statements. Joint checking account. Tyler and Brooke's names at the top. The statements were typical at first. Mortgage payment, utilities, groceries, a charge from the OB/GYN office, Target, Starbucks. Then I saw it. A recurring automatic payment. $1,500 every month to something called Parkside Property Management, Denton address. I stopped scrolling, stared at the screen. Brooke and Tyler owned one house, the 4-bedroom colonial on Maple Street that my mother brought up in every conversation. So what was this? I scrolled back. The payment had been active for 38 months, over 3 years. $1,500 a month, withdrawn on the first of every month like clockwork, going to a property management company in Denton, the same town from the receipt. The same town 40 minutes east where Tyler had taken Julian for burgers and bought 2 dinosaur toys. I kept scrolling. Another recurring charge. $720 a month. Bright Futures Early Learning Center, also in Denton. A daycare. Brooke was 7 months pregnant. Their baby wasn't born yet. So whose childcare was Tyler paying for? My hands were shaking. I set the laptop down, stood up, walked to the kitchen sink and poured myself a glass of water I didn't drink. There were explanations. There are always explanations when you're looking at numbers you don't want to understand. Investment property, helping a relative, some business arrangement I wasn't seeing. I sat back down, opened the statements again. I cross-referenced the payment dates with my own calendar. With the weekends Tyler had been gone, with the trips he'd told Brooke were sales conferences. Every single month, 2 days before the rent auto-drafted, Tyler made a cash deposit into a secondary checking account I hadn't noticed before. Same amount, $1,500. Exactly enough to cover the Denton rent. The daycare payments had started 32 months ago. I did the math I didn't want to do. 32 months was 2 years and 8 months. If a child had been in daycare for 2 years and 8 months, they'd be roughly 3 years old now. Tyler and Brooke got married 3.5 years ago. I closed the laptop, pressed my palms against my eyes. I'm a forensic accountant. I've uncovered embezzlement schemes, traced hidden assets, caught people funneling money to secret accounts. I know what fraud looks like. This looked like fraud. This looked like a man funding a second life. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at my ceiling, listening to rain, running scenarios that all ended the same way. Tyler had another family, a rental property in Denton, childcare payments for a toddler, cash deposits timed perfectly to cover expenses Brooke didn't know about, the overnight trips, the expanding territory, the smell of unfamiliar laundry detergent. Julian's words echoed in my head. Uncle Tyler grabbed 2 toys, one for me and one for who, baby? I'm not supposed to say. A 3-year-old, in Denton, whose toy Tyler bought at the same time he bought Julian's. I got up at 5 in the morning, made coffee, opened my laptop again. I pulled up the county assessor's records for Denton, public database, the same one I use for asset searches in my cases. I typed in Parkside Property Management and filtered for active leases. 12 properties came up. I scanned the tenant names. There, 4th one down. Unit 8B. Tenant Tyler Callahan and Morgan Hastings. Joint lease. Both names. Signed 3 years and 2 months ago. Morgan Hastings. I stared at the name. I didn't know her. Had never heard Brooke or Mom or anyone mention her. but Tyler knew her well enough to co-sign a lease. Well enough to pay her rent for 38 consecutive months. I sat there as the sun came up, as my coffee went cold, as Julian's alarm went off down the hall and I heard his small feet pad toward the bathroom. I had two choices: blow up my sister's life 6 weeks before she gave birth, or stay quiet and let her marry her future to a man who was already married to someone else. Not legally married, but financially bound, domestically entangled, raising a child with another woman while my sister picked out crib sheets and argued over baby names. Julian appeared in the doorway in his dinosaur pajamas, hair sticking up on one side. "Morning, Mom." "Morning, bud." He climbed into my lap. Too big for it, really, but I wrapped my arms around him anyway. "You okay?" he asked. "You look sad." "Just tired." He leaned his head against my shoulder. "Is it about Uncle Tyler?" My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "The house we went to. When he got the toys." I pulled back so I could see his face. "Tell me about that house, Julian." He picked at a loose thread on my sleeve. "It was smaller than Aunt Brooke's. There was a lady there. She had brown hair. And a little boy. He was really little, like maybe 3. "What was the boy's name?" "Ethan. He showed me his trucks. He had like 1,000,000 trucks, Mom." Ethan, 3 years old, living in a rental unit in Denton with a woman named Morgan and a man who visited on weekends and brought him toys and told my son it was a surprise and not to tell anyone. "Did Uncle Tyler say anything about them?" Julian nodded. "He said that's his friend Morgan and her son. He said he helps them sometimes because Morgan's job doesn't pay a lot. He said it's nice to help people, and I shouldn't mention it because it might make Aunt Brooke feel weird that he's giving money to someone else." The explanation was so clean it made me nauseous. Tyler had coached my son, had given him a story that sounded virtuous, helping people, and a reason to stay silent that sounded considerate. Might make Aunt Brooke feel weird. He'd turned my 8-year-old into a secret keeper. I hugged Julian tighter than I should have. He squirmed. "Mom, you're squishing me." "Sorry, baby." He wiggled free and ran to get dressed for school. I sat at the table with my cold coffee and the county assessor's records still open on my laptop. Tyler wasn't helping a friend. He was keeping a second family. I spent the next week telling myself to stay out of it. I'm good at that, staying out of things, swallowing information, carrying weight that isn't mine. But this weight had my nephew's future attached to it. And my sister's life. And my son's innocence. I opened a case file the way I'd open any case file. Documented everything. The bank statements. The property records. The daycare payments. Julian's account of the visit. The receipt from the Denton gas station. I cross-referenced Tyler's credit card statements. He'd sent those too in the refinance packet, and found charges at a grocery store in Denton, a pediatrician's office, a children's consignment shop. Purchases you make when you have a toddler. The evidence was clean. Damning. The kind of discovery that would hold up in a divorce proceeding. I saved it all in a folder. Labeled it Brooke, personal. Then I closed it and tried to pretend I hadn't seen it. 4 days before the shower, I made a decision. I would tell Brooke. But not at the shower. Not in front of people. Not in a way designed to humiliate her. I would wait until after. I'd ask her to coffee, just the two of us. I'd bring the documents. I'd lay it out gently, clearly, the way you'd deliver a diagnosis to someone you care about. She deserved to know before the baby came, before she put Tyler's name on a birth certificate, before she bound herself legally to a man who was already bound to someone else. I rehearsed it in my head, what I'd say first, how I'd soften it, where I'd put my hands so I didn't look confrontational. "Brooke, I need to show you something. I found it by accident while helping Tyler with the refinance. I'm so sorry. I wouldn't ambush her. I wouldn't weaponize it. I would tell her the truth because she was my sister. And the truth mattered more than the years of comparisons and condescension. That was my plan. It was a good plan. It died 3 days before the shower when Tyler called me. His voice on the phone was tight, controlled, the way men sound when they're deciding whether to be angry or apologetic. "Claire, we need to talk." I was at my desk, client files spread in front of me. I set down my pen. "About what?" "About Denton." My stomach dropped. "I don't know what you—" "Don't." His voice went hard. Julian told Brooke about the visit. About Morgan. She called me crying, asking who the hell Morgan is and why I'm taking our nephew to some random woman's house. I closed my eyes. Tyler. I smoothed it over. Told her exactly what I told Julian. That Morgan's a friend from college who's going through a hard time and I've been helping her out. Brooke bought it. Barely. But she bought it. Is that what Morgan is? I kept my voice even. Professional. A friend from college? Silence. 5 seconds. 10. Then. You went through the bank statements. You asked me to. I asked you to check them for errors, not dig into my personal life. A $1,500 monthly payment to a property management company isn't personal, Tyler. It's marital assets. And if Brooke doesn't know about it, she doesn't need to know about it. The certainty in his voice made my skin crawl. She's your wife. And Morgan is none of your business. Morgan's son is 3 years old, Tyler. You've been paying his daycare for almost 3 years. You're on a lease with his mother. Those aren't the actions of someone helping a friend. Another silence. Longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Quieter. Almost reasonable. Claire, listen to me. Brooke is 7 months pregnant. She's happy. She's building a nursery. She's excited about this baby. If you tell her about Morgan, you'll destroy her. Right now, when she's at her most vulnerable. Is that really what you want? I want her to know the truth. The truth is, I made a mistake 3 years ago. I've been handling it. I take care of Ethan financially. I make sure Morgan's rent is paid. But my life is with Brooke. My future is with Brooke and this baby. Morgan knows that. It's not some affair, Claire. It's a responsibility I'm managing. You have a child with another woman. I have a situation with another woman. There's a difference. I thought about Brooke. About the shower invitations she'd mailed. About the nursery she'd painted pale yellow. About the Instagram photos of onesies and tiny shoes. She deserves to know before she has your baby, Tyler. If you tell her, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you are. My hand tightened on the phone. What I am. Bitter. Jealous. A woman whose husband left her and who can't stand watching her sister have what she couldn't keep. I'll tell them you made the whole thing up because you've always resented Brooke. And trust me, Claire. They'll believe me. He was right. They would believe him. Tyler, who brought my mother flowers, who grilled at every family cookout, who'd spent 3 years building credibility while I'd spent 6 years being the cautionary tale. I'm telling her after the shower, I said, privately, with documentation. You have until then to do it yourself. Stay out of my marriage, Claire. He hung up. I sat at my desk, stared at my client files. At the fraud case I was building for a small business owner whose partner had been siphoning funds for 2 years. Everyone loved the partner. He coached his kids' soccer team, brought bagels to staff meetings. The numbers told a different story. They always do. Saturday morning arrived the way bad weather arrives. Inevitable. Heavy. I woke up at 6, made breakfast for Julian, watched him eat cereal in his pajamas while I drank coffee and tried to figure out how to get through the next 8 hours. The quilt was already wrapped, sitting by the front door in a gift bag with tissue paper. Julian appeared in the doorway to my bedroom at 7:30, already dressed. He'd put on the button-up shirt I'd laid out for him, navy blue. He'd even attempted to tuck it in. Do I look okay, Mom? You look perfect. He grinned, ran to the bathroom to brush his teeth. My son was excited to go to a party where no one had specifically invited him, where my mother had told me to keep him out of the way. I put on the gray dress, the one with pockets. I needed somewhere to put my hands. We got in the car at 8:15. The drive to Mom's house took 12 minutes. I counted every one of them. Julian was quiet in the back seat. I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. You okay, bud? Are you going to tell Aunt Brooke? About Uncle Tyler? I gripped the steering wheel. After the party. Privately. Good. He looked out the window. She should know. It's not fair that she doesn't know. 8 years old. And he understood fairness better than every adult in my family. Mom's house looked like a magazine spread. Pale pink and cream balloons framed the front door. A banner across the porch. Welcome, baby Callahan. I parked on the street, grabbed the gift bag. Julian took my hand. We walked up the driveway together. My mother met us at the door. She was wearing a floral dress and lipstick. Her hair was curled. You're late. I checked my watch. It's 8:27. You said 8:30. I said early. The chairs need to be set up in the living room. She looked at Julian, not warmly, just looked. Hi, Grandma, he said. Hello, Julian. There's a chair for you in the hallway. You can sit there during the party. She turned and walked inside before I could respond. Julian's hand tightened in mine. It's okay, Mom. It wasn't okay, but I I didn't have the energy to fight about a chair. We stepped inside. The living room had been transformed. White folding chairs arranged in rows facing the fireplace. A gift table against the far wall already stacked with wrapped boxes. A three-tiered cake on the dining room table. Pink frosting. Fondant flowers. Baby Callahan written in perfect script. Brooke was in the kitchen with two of her friends, laughing, glowing, one hand resting on her belly. Tyler was outside on the deck, grilling something, talking to my uncle. He saw me through the window. Our eyes met. He didn't smile. I set the quilt on the gift table. It looked exactly how I knew it would. Small, humble, homemade in the way that means couldn't afford better. Julian tugged my sleeve. "Mom, where do you want me?" "With me." I found two chairs in the third row, pulled Julian into the seat beside me. Mom appeared. "Julian, I told you, there's a seat in the hallway." "He's sitting with me." We stared at each other. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Fine, but keep him quiet." She walked away. Julian leaned close, whispered, "I don't think Grandma likes us very much." I put my arm around him. "Grandma's just busy, bud." He didn't believe me. I didn't believe me. The guests started arriving at 9. 37 people by my count. Friends from Brooke's work, women from Mom's church, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Everyone hugged Brooke. Everyone complimented her dress, her glow, her nursery photos on the poster board by the gift table. 3 people said hello to me. One asked how I was doing. I said fine. She nodded and walked away. At 10 o'clock, Mom stood up and clinked a glass. "Welcome, everyone. We're so happy you're here to celebrate Brooke and Tyler and baby Callahan." Applause. Smiles. Brooke beaming from her seat at the front. The games started. Guess the baby food flavor, diaper raffle, advice cards. I sat in the third row with Julian beside me and watched my sister be celebrated by a room full of people who had no idea her husband had a 3-year-old son in Denton. At 11, they opened gifts. Brooke sat in a chair by the fireplace. Tyler stood behind her, hands on her shoulders. Mom sat beside her with a notepad, writing down who gave what. Each gift got a reaction. Squeals, laughter. "Oh my God, this is perfect." The stroller. "This is exactly the one I wanted." The designer diaper bag. "You guys, I'm going to cry." The cashmere baby blanket from Mom. "Mom, this is beautiful." Then Brooke picked up my gift. She pulled back the tissue paper, held up the quilt, turned it over in her hands. The room went quiet, waiting for her reaction. She looked at me, smiled. The smile didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, wow, Claire, you made this?" I did. "That's so sweet." She folded it, set it on the floor beside her chair, not on the display table where the other gifts were arranged. On the floor. Someone in the front row whispered something to the person next to her. They both glanced at me. Julian's hand found mine under the chair. The gift opening continued. More squeals. More perfect reactions. My quilt stayed on the floor. The comment came during lunch. We were sitting at tables on the back deck. Sandwiches and fruit and sparkling lemonade. Brooke at the head table with Tyler and Mom. Me and Julian at a side table with cousins who didn't speak to me. One of Brooke's friends, Amanda, I think, leaned across the table and smiled at me with too many teeth. "So, Claire, anyone special in your life these days?" Before I could answer, my mother cut in from the next table. "Claire's focused on Julian. That's enough for her right now." She said it like she was being kind, protective. It felt like being erased. Another woman, Tyler's aunt, tilted her head toward Brooke and Tyler. "You two are just the perfect family. Brooke, you really hit the jackpot with this one." Brooke glowed. Tyler kissed the top of her head. My mother nodded. "Some women just make better choices." She didn't look at me when she said it. She didn't have to. Julian went very still beside me. His sandwich sat untouched on his plate. I put my hand on his knee under the table, squeezed gently. "We're okay. We're okay." At 1 o'clock, Mom stood up again, raised her glass of lemonade. "I want to make a toast." The deck went quiet. "To my beautiful daughter Brooke, and to Tyler, who has given her everything I could have hoped for. A real partnership, a real home, a complete family." She paused on complete, let it hang in the air. "Brooke, sweetheart, you did everything right. You chose well. You built something strong. And now you're bringing a baby into a family that's whole." She lifted her glass. "To the Callahans. To the Callahans." 37 voices. Glasses raised. Brooke touched her eyes. Tyler wrapped his arm around her. "I lifted my glass because that's what you do. You participate in your own diminishment because the alternative is causing a scene." Julian didn't lift his. He sat very still, staring at Tyler. I saw his jaw tighten, saw his small hand curl into a fist on the table. "Julian," I whispered. "It's okay. It's not okay, Mom. I know. but we'll leave soon. She shouldn't say that stuff. About complete families. It's mean. I know, baby. And Uncle Tyler. Not here. He looked at me. His eyes were bright. Not with tears. With something sharper. When then? After. I promise. He nodded. Picked up his sandwich. Didn't eat it. At 2 o'clock, Brooke stood up for a speech. She was glowing, radiant, one hand on her belly, the other holding Tyler's hand. I just want to thank everyone for being here, for celebrating with us. This baby is so loved already, and I'm so grateful. She looked at Tyler. I'm so grateful I have a partner who shows up every single day, who's going to be an amazing father. She turned, looked directly at me. Her smile changed, sharpened. Honestly, I'm just so thankful my baby is going to grow up in a stable home, with 2 parents, with a father who's present. She paused. The deck was silent. At least my baby will have a father. The laughter started immediately. Not everyone, but enough. Amanda covered her mouth. Tyler's aunt actually clapped. My mother pressed her lips together. Didn't say a word to stop it. Brooke stood there, smiling, one hand on her belly, soaking in the validation. I sat in my chair, held my face still, felt Julian's hand grip mine so tightly his fingernails dug into my palm. 8 years old, and he was holding me together. The laughter rolled across the deck. Glasses clinked. Someone whistled, and my son stood up. Julian didn't shout. He stood up from his chair the way kids stand when they're called on in class, straight-backed, serious. His shirt was still tucked in on one side, untucked on the other. The deck had been laughing 5 seconds ago. Now people were just murmuring, reaching for their drinks, settling back into their chairs. Julian's voice cut through all of it, clear, steady, loud enough to carry across the deck. Aunt Brooke, should I tell everyone about Uncle Tyler's other family? The sound didn't stop. It evaporated. I've been in rooms when evidence is presented. When the moment of discovery happens and everything shifts. I've watched people's faces change when they realize the numbers don't lie. I have never experienced silence like the one my son created on that deck. 37 people. 37 faces turning from Julian to Tyler to Brooke. Brooke's smile didn't fade. It froze, like someone had paused her mid-expression. Tyler was standing beside her, one hand still on her shoulder. The hand didn't move. Nothing moved. Julian looked around the deck, his face uncertain now, like he'd answered a question in class and wasn't sure if he'd gotten it right. Uncle Tyler has another house, he said. Quieter now, but the deck was so silent, quiet carried. In Denton, with a lady named Morgan, and her son Ethan. He's 3. He looked at me, then back at Brooke. Ethan showed me his truck collection. Uncle Tyler took me there when he was supposed to be taking me for burgers. 37 people. Every single face turned toward Tyler. Tyler's hand slipped from Brooke's shoulder. His face had gone the color of the white frosting on the cake inside. Brooke laughed. It was the worst sound I've ever heard. High and thin and cracking at the edges like ice before it breaks. What is he talking about? She was looking at me, not at Tyler, at me. Claire, what did you tell him? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Tyler answered for all of us by moving. He took a step backward, away from Brooke, away from the table. His hand went to his pocket, reaching for his car keys, I realized. An automatic gesture, the body moving toward an exit before the brain catches up. He's confused, Tyler said. His voice was too loud, defensive. Kids make things up. He probably saw something on TV and thought, I didn't see it on TV. Julian's voice was calm, calmer than Tyler's. You took me there, to 412 Elm Street, the house with the blue door. Morgan made us grilled cheese sandwiches. You told me not to tell anyone because it was a surprise, and surprises are supposed to be secret. Tyler's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Someone's fork clattered against a plate. Brooke stood up. 7 months pregnant, moving slowly, both hands pressed against her belly. Tyler. Her voice was steady, controlled. The voice of someone who's about to either scream or shatter and is choosing neither. What is he talking about? Tyler looked at the deck, at the 37 faces staring at him, at the exit behind him. He looked at Brooke. I can explain. Then explain. Not here, not in front of... Explain it right now. The deck was silent. Tyler's jaw worked. His hands flexed at his sides. And I watched him make the same calculation every guilty person makes when the evidence is presented and the exits are blocked. Deny or run. He ran. He turned, walked through the open sliding door into the house, grabbed his jacket off the coat rack. Tyler! Brooke's voice cracked. Tyler! Get back here! He didn't look back. The front door opened, closed. 10 seconds later, his truck started in the driveway. He left. He left his pregnant wife standing on a deck full of people at her own baby shower, and he drove away. Brooke stood there, both hands pressed to her belly, staring at the empty doorway. The silence stretched. 5 seconds. 10. Then she turned on me. "You did this." Her voice was shaking now, all the control gone. "You knew, and you brought Julian here to humiliate me. In front of everyone. At my baby shower." I stood up, slowly, kept my voice level. "I asked Tyler to tell you himself, 2 days ago. I told him you deserved to know before the baby came. He refused. So you decided to announce it in front of 37 people? I didn't announce anything. I was going to tell you privately, after today. I had it planned." Brooke's hands were trembling. "Then why did Julian?" "Because he's 8 years old and he heard you say my son doesn't have a father while standing next to a man who's hiding a whole child. Julian thought he was helping. He thought he was telling the truth." My voice cracked on the last word. I cleared my throat, steadied myself. "I didn't want it to happen this way, Brooke. I swear to God I didn't. But he built this, not me. Tyler built this and he had 2 days to tell you the truth and he spent them grilling on your deck and kissing you for photos." Amanda stood up, quietly collected her purse. Tyler's aunt did the same. People were leaving, not dramatically, just quietly gathering their things and slipping toward the door. My mother hadn't moved. She was still sitting in her chair at the head table, gripping the armrests with both hands, staring at Brooke. Brooke looked at Julian. "Is it true? Everything you said?" Julian nodded. His eyes were huge, starting to fill with tears. "I'm sorry, Aunt Brooke. I didn't mean to make you sad. You said Mom made bad choices, and that your baby was going to have a dad, and I kept thinking about Ethan and..." His voice broke. I pulled him against my side. Brooke pressed both hands to her face. Her shoulders shook. One of her friends, the one who'd been sitting beside her during gift opening, stood up and put a hand on her back. "Honey, let's go inside. Let's sit down." Brooke shook her head, dropped her hands. She looked at me. Her face was blotchy, mascara starting to run. "Do you have proof?" I nodded. "Show me." We went inside. Just the 3 of us. Me, Brooke, and my mother. Julian sat in the hallway on the chair that had been designated for him from the beginning. I gave him my phone, told him to play a game, keep his headphones in. He nodded. He looked terrified. "You didn't do anything wrong," I whispered. "I promise." He didn't believe me, but he put the headphones in. I pulled out my laptop, opened the folder labeled Brooke Personal, set it on the dining room table. Brooke sat down. Mom stood behind her. I pulled up the bank statements first. Tyler sent these to me last week. He asked me to review them for the refinance. I didn't go looking for this, but when I saw it, I couldn't ignore it. I pointed to the recurring charge. $1,500. Parkside Property Management. Denton. Brooke stared at it. "What is that?" "Rent. For a 2-bedroom unit at 412 Elm Street. Leased to Tyler Callahan and Morgan Hastings. The lease has been active for 38 months. I pulled up the property records. Showed her the lease. Both names. Brooke's hand went to her mouth. I pulled up the daycare charges. $720 a month. Bright Futures Early Learning Center. The payment started 32 months ago. If a child's been in daycare that long, he'd be about 3 now. I didn't say the rest. That 32 months ago was 4 months after their wedding. That Tyler had gotten another woman pregnant either right before or right after he said vows to my sister. Brooke saw it anyway. I watched her count backward in her head, watched her face crumple. "He has a 3-year-old. Yes. He has a son. Yes." She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "How long have you known?" 6 days. Since Tyler sent me the statements. 6 days. Her voice went sharp. "You knew for 6 days and you didn't tell me?" "I told Tyler to tell you himself. I told him he had until after the shower. I wasn't going to ruin today. I was going to ask you to coffee on Monday. Just us. I was going to bring all of this and sit with you while I what? Fell apart? You were going to schedule my breakdown like a dentist appointment? I was trying to do this gently. There's no gentle way to tell someone their husband has another family, Claire." She was right. I closed my laptop. "I'm sorry. I should have told you immediately. I thought I was protecting you. You thought you knew better than me." I didn't argue. My mother finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, thin. "Is this real, Claire? You're absolutely certain?" "Yes." "And Tyler knows you know?" "Yes. I told him 2 days ago. He threatened to tell the family I made it up out of jealousy if I said anything." Mom's face went very still. "He said that?" "Yes." She sat down. Slowly, like her legs had stopped working. For the first time in my life, my mother looked small. Brooke stared at the closed laptop. I want to see the rest. I opened it again. Showed her everything. The cash deposits Tyler made before each rent payment. The grocery charges in Denton. The pediatrician bills. The children's consignment store. A financial trail that painted a complete picture. A man living 2 lives, funding 2 households, fathering 2 children. When I finished, Brooke just sat there, both hands on her belly, staring at numbers that destroyed her marriage. Does Morgan know about me? I don't know. Does Ethan know Tyler's married? I don't know. Does Tyler love her? I don't know, Brooke. She pressed her palms against her eyes, breathed in, out. When she dropped her hands, her face was different, harder. Can you help me? With the financials? For the divorce. Yes. I can't afford. I'm not charging you. She looked at me, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. Why are you helping me? After everything her voice broke. After what I said, about your choices, about Julian not having a father. I've been awful to you, Claire. I could have said a lot of things in that moment. I could have listed every comment, every comparison, every casual cruelty over the last 6 years. I didn't. You're my sister, and that baby deserves a mother who knows the truth. Brooke started crying. Not delicate tears, sobs, the kind that shake your whole body. I moved around the table, put my arms around her. She collapsed against me, 7 months pregnant, her whole life breaking apart in my mother's dining room, while half-eaten cake sat on the counter and pink balloons sagged in the doorway. I held her while she cried. My mother sat across from us, silent, staring at her hands. The deck was empty when we came back outside. The guests had left, all of them, quietly collected their things and slipped away while we were inside, looking at evidence of a marriage that had been a lie for 3 years. The gift table was still full, the cake untouched. Pink napkins scattered across empty tables. Mom started cleaning up, moving mechanically, stacking plates, folding napkins. Brooke sank into a chair, exhausted, hollowed out. I found Julian in the hallway, still wearing his headphones, playing a game on my phone with his shoulders hunched up around his ears. I touched his shoulder. He flinched, pulled the headphones out. Is Aunt Brooke really mad at me? No, baby, she's not mad at you. She was crying. Because of Uncle Tyler, not because of you. He looked past me toward the living room. Is she going to be okay? Eventually. Are we going to leave now? Soon. He nodded, slipped the headphones back in. I walked back to the deck. My mother was wiping down tables, moving too fast, not looking at me. Mom! She didn't stop. Mom! She set down the cloth, turned. Her face was pale, eyes red-rimmed. I didn't know, she said. About Tyler. I didn't know. I know. If I had known, you wouldn't have believed me. I kept my voice even. If I'd come to you a week ago and told you Tyler had another family, you would have said I was jealous, that I was trying to ruin Brooke's happiness because I couldn't handle watching her have what I lost. She opened her mouth, closed it, because we both knew it was true. For 6 years, I said quietly, you've measured me against Brooke. You've used my divorce as proof that I make bad choices. You've let her mock me at every family gathering. You've told Julian to sit in the hallway and be quiet at his own aunt's baby shower. Claire, I'm not finished. She went still. Today you stood on that deck and toasted Brooke's complete family while I sat 3 feet away with your grandson. You let her say my son doesn't have a father and you didn't say a word. You let 37 people laugh. My voice cracked. I steadied it. I came here with a gift I spent a month making. I came here ready to celebrate my sister. And you put my quilt on the floor and my son in the hallway, and me in a chair at the back like I was something you were embarrassed of. Tears were running down my mother's face now. And the man you held up as the perfect husband? The man you told Brooke was proof she'd made better choices than me? He's been living a double life for 3 years. He has a son he's never mentioned. He's been siphoning money from the account Brooke thought was paying their mortgage. And when my 8-year-old told the truth, Tyler ran. I took a breath. So here's what's going to happen, Mom. You're going to stop comparing me to Brooke. You're going to stop making comments about my choices and my life and my son. You're going to treat Julian like your grandson, not like an inconvenience. And if you can't do that, if you can't see me as someone other than the daughter who disappoints you, then you're not going to see us at all. Silence. My mother stared at me, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know. I didn't realize. You didn't want to realize. It was easier to believe I was the problem. She pressed her hands to her face. I turned to leave. Claire, I stopped. What you did today, helping Brooke, you didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. She's my sister. Even after everything especially after everything. I walked inside, found Julian in the hallway, took his hand. Let's go home, bud. He stood up immediately, grabbed his jacket. We walked past the gift table, past the quilt I'd spent 46 hours making, still sitting on the floor where Brooke had left it. Julian stopped. Mom, your quilt. Leave it. But you worked so hard on it. I know, but Brooke's baby should have it. Babies need soft things. He looked at me, understanding something in the way kids understand things when they're 8 and the world has just shown them that adults are complicated. Okay. We walked out the front door, down the driveway, got in the car. I sat behind the wheel for a moment, hands shaking, breathing hard. Julian reached over from the back seat and touched my shoulder. You were really brave, Mom. I started crying. Right there in my mother's driveway with the engine off and my son's small hand on my shoulder. Not sad crying. Not angry crying. Relief. Tyler didn't come home that night. Brooke called me at 11, asked if I could come over. She didn't want to be alone. I called my neighbor, a retired teacher who'd babysat Julian before. She came over in her bathrobe. I drove to Brooke's house. The nursery was finished. Pale yellow walls, white crib, a mobile with small felt elephants hanging above it. Brooke was sitting on the floor of the nursery in the dark, back against the crib, hands on her belly. I sat down beside her. He texted, she said. Her voice was flat, empty. Said he's staying at a hotel. Said we should talk when things calm down. What did you say? I told him to stay at Morgan's house, save himself the hotel fee. We sat in the dark. I picked out names, Brooke said quietly. For the baby. Tyler wanted Jacob if it's a boy. I wanted Emma if it's a girl. We were going to decide together, be partners. She laughed. It sounded like breaking. He already has a son. He already picked a name. He already did this whole thing with someone else, and I'm just the second family. Except I didn't even know I was second. You're not second. You're the one he married. And Morgan's the one he kept. I didn't have an answer for that. We sat there until 1 in the morning. Didn't talk much. Just sat. When I finally left, Brooke walked me to the door. Thank you, she said, for not letting me marry him blind. For giving me a chance to protect this baby before, she touched her belly. Before I put his name on a birth certificate. You're going to be okay. Am I? Yeah, you are. She hugged me, hard. I'm sorry, Claire. For everything. For years of, I'm sorry. I hugged her back. I know. The next 3 weeks were a blur of paperwork. I built the financial case for Brooke's divorce. Documented every hidden asset, every undisclosed payment, every dollar Tyler had diverted from their marital estate to fund his life with Morgan. Brooke hired a lawyer, a good one, the kind who doesn't settle. Tyler tried to negotiate, claimed Morgan was just a friend he'd been helping, that Ethan wasn't his. Brooke's lawyer requested a paternity test. Tyler stopped responding. The divorce was filed on grounds of adultery and financial misconduct. Brooke asked for full custody of the baby, child support, and half of everything Tyler had hidden. Morgan called Brooke once. They talked for 2 hours. I don't know what was said. Brooke didn't tell me, but afterward, she seemed quieter, sadder, but also clearer. Tyler's parents called my mother, asked what had happened, why their son was suddenly facing a divorce and a paternity suit. Mom told them the truth. They stopped calling. Brooke had the baby on a Tuesday in August. A girl, 7 pounds 3 ounces. She named her Emma. No middle name, just Emma. I visited the hospital the next day, brought flowers. A card from Julian. Brooke was in bed, holding Emma, looking exhausted and terrified and fierce all at once. She's perfect, I said. She is. Brooke looked down at her daughter. And she's going to know her worth. She's going to know that a man who lies isn't a man worth keeping. She's going to know that her mom chose truth over comfort. She looked at me. Because her aunt taught me that. I sat on the edge of the bed, looked at my niece. Tiny fists, dark hair, eyes closed. Can I hold her? Brooke handed her over. Emma was warm, solid, real. I looked at her small face and thought about Julian, about the life I'd built after his father left, about every hard choice and late night and moment I'd thought I couldn't do it. You're going to be okay, Emma, I whispered. Your mom's got you. My mother came to the hospital that afternoon. She brought the quilt, the pale blue one I'd left on the floor at the shower. I washed it, she said quietly. I thought Emma should have it. Brooke took it, spread it across Emma in the hospital bassinet. It fit perfectly. Mom looked at me. Can we talk? We went to the hospital cafeteria, sat across from each other with bad coffee in paper cups. I've been thinking, Mom said, about what you said, on the deck, about how I've treated you, about Julian. I waited. You were right. I did measure you against Brooke. I did let her mock you. I did make you feel like you'd failed because your husband left. She looked down at her coffee. I think I was scared. Of what? That if I acknowledged you were doing fine without a husband, it meant I'd wasted my whole life measuring my worth by whether your father stayed. I hadn't expected that. She looked up, eyes red. Your father left, Claire, when you were 12. I told everyone he died because I couldn't stand the idea of people knowing I wasn't enough to make him stay. I built my whole identity around keeping up appearances. And when your husband left, it terrified me because you were becoming me. I'm nothing like you. No, you're better. You didn't hide. You didn't pretend. You built a life. You raised Julian. You didn't make your worth dependent on a man who didn't deserve you. Her voice cracked. And I punished you for it because watching you succeed alone meant I'd failed. Silence. I'm sorry, Claire. I'm sorry for every comment, every comparison, every time I made you feel less than. You're not less than. You never were. I sat there with my bad coffee and my mother's apology and 6 years of hurt sitting between us. I need you to do better, Mom. With Julian. With me. No more comments. No more comparisons. I will. I promise. And you need to tell me about Dad. The real story. Because I'm tired of lies. She nodded, wiped her eyes. We sat there for a long time. Didn't fix everything. Didn't erase 6 years of damage, but it was a start. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Tyler was ordered to pay child support for Emma. The paternity test confirmed he was Ethan's father. He was ordered to pay support for him too. Brooke got the house. Half of Tyler's retirement. Full custody of Emma. Tyler moved in with Morgan. Officially. No more secret life. No more double households. Brooke told me once that Morgan had believed Tyler was separated. That he'd told her his marriage to Brooke was over before Emma was even conceived. That he'd lied to both of them for 3 years. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it matters. What matters is Brooke got out, got free, got a chance to raise her daughter in truth instead of performance. Julian's 9 now. We don't go to every family gathering anymore. We pick the ones that feel safe. The ones where nobody makes comments about complete families or bad choices. Brooke comes over sometimes, brings Emma. We sit in my backyard and watch Julian teach Emma how to identify bugs and rocks and cloud shapes. Mom's trying. She still slips sometimes, still makes comments that sting. But she catches herself now, apologizes, shows up to Julian's school events and sits in the front row. It's not perfect, but it's real. Last week, Julian came home from school with a worksheet. Family tree project. He sat at the kitchen table, pencil in hand, staring at the empty branches. Mom, do I put Dad on here? I sat down beside him. Do you want to? I don't know. I don't really know him. Then you don't have to. He thought about it, then drew a line from his name to mine. Just the two of us. Is this okay? He asked. I looked at the tree. 2 names, 2 branches, complete. It's perfect, bud. He smiled, started coloring in the leaves. I still do forensic accounting, still trace money for a living, still find what people hide. But I learned something that day on my mother's deck, watching my 8-year-old son stand up and tell a truth that 37 adults had been too comfortable to see. Numbers tell stories, but people tell the truth when they're brave enough to speak it. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is let an 8-year-old in a button-up shirt ask one simple question that breaks apart a lie 3 years in the making. Brooke sent me a photo last week. Emma, 6 months old, wrapped in the pale blue quilt I'd made, sleeping, safe. The text said, "She loves this. Thank you for making it. Thank you for everything." I saved the photo. Some gifts take time to be understood. Some truths take a baby shower and a crayon drawing and a little boy who believed his aunt deserved better. I'm Claire. I'm 32. I raise my son alone. I built a business from nothing. I set a boundary with my family and held it even when it hurt. And the last time my whole family laughed at me, my son ended the party. Not with anger, with truth. And truth, it turns out, is the only thing that ever really completes a family. If this story reached you, if you've ever been the one your family underestimated while they applauded someone else's performance, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment about the moment you finally set a boundary, about the person in your life who saw the truth when everyone else wanted the comfortable lie. Share this with someone who needs to know that quiet strength is still strength, that single parents are whole families, that the math always matters, but the truth matters more.